Because his pitch was, look, and it's a really interesting pitch, and turned out to be quite valid. He said, look, I can find the Titanic with this gear, your Navy secret robotic gear and your imaging sonars and so forth. And the president I know, with his forward strategy, wants to really play with the Soviets' mind to make them think we can do far more even than we're capable of, and we're capable of a lot. So let me find the Titanic. Give me 2 weeks and I'll find it. Let me make it public. Let me show the videos from the robots roaming through the ballrooms, and this will drive the Soviet Union crazy, because they'll think, oh, if they are ready to publicize this capability, which we don't have, imagine what else they're doing. So the logic was pretty compelling, but really just to quiet him. I couldn't stand the constant buzz in my ears for 10. So I said, okay, I'll recommend it to the president that we approve it, but just for 2 weeks.
Welcome to Titanic at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum, open now through January 7th, 2018. In this video podcast, we'll take a look at this first-of-its-kind 10,000 square foot exhibition, which reunites hundreds of Titanic artifacts that have not been together since the ship's fateful night in 1912, alongside materials and artifacts from the 1985-86 discovery of the Titanic, as well as sets, props, and costumes from the 1997 blockbuster movie. This exhibition has not been seen anywhere else before. The Titanic was seen as an unsinkable ship. While she was a marvel of engineering with her watertight compartments and her double keel, she sank on her maiden voyage on April 15, 1912. Found in 1985 by Dr. Robert Ballard during a top-secret mission on Cold War espionage, while searching for the nuclear submarines USS Thresher and USS Scorpion, Titanic at the Reagan Library tells the complex story of this magnificent ship, the tragedy of her demise, and her surprising discovery in the 1980s.
But I'd learned a tremendous amount from mapping the Scorpion that taught me how to find the Titanic, because when the Scorpion tragically sank, it imploded and it went off like a bomb, and all of the contents of the Scorpion went into the water column. But as it was falling to the ocean floor, the currents were carrying the lighter material, and there was this fallout where the reactor went straight down like a bowling ball, but then lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And as I was mapping it, I found that the comet of debris was over a mile long. And that's when I got the idea, don't look for the Titanic, look for its trail of debris.
Titanic at the Reagan Library honors the 1,500 souls who perished on Titanic, along with the 267 brave American seamen who perished on the Thresher and Scorpion. Out of respect, none of the artifacts displayed in this exhibition were salvaged from the wreck itself, a sacred final resting place. Found in 1985 during President Reagan's administration, the Titanic quickly became a dive site for many different companies and explorers trying to get a piece of her history. To protect the historic site and preserve it for generations, President Reagan issued the 1986 RMS Titanic Memorial Act to designate the wreck as an international maritime memorial. Every artifact in this exhibit was either retrieved at the time of the sinking, was recovered from the top of the ocean during the recovery mission, or was carried off the ship by survivors.
We made a promise to never take anything, to never desecrate the site, because it was like, to take something off the Titanic was like to take belt buckles off the Arizona, or to go to Gettysburg with a shovel. You don't do that. And we felt that it was a site that deserved respect, and it remained that way for the rest of the expedition, the rest of my life.
A historic collection of real artifacts from the Titanic, alongside items used in the discovery of the famed ship, Titanic at the Reagan Library combines real stories and real artifacts from the real people on board the ship. Dramatically set with props, sets, and costumes from the blockbuster movie about the RMS Titanic, it is a must-see collaboration of secrets, cinema, and artifacts.
And then the next really watershed moment in my life, of course, would have to be 1995, when I found out that Jim Cameron was out there in the North Atlantic and was down filming the wreck for a possible major motion picture feature. And one thing led to another, and he hired me as his visual historian. It was the title that they gave me. And Don Lynch as the historian.
I was surprised when I got to the ship how well I knew the ship. I've always studied the story, and on August 27th, 2001, pulled up to the side, and rather than coming up towards the bow like they do in all the films and everything, we actually approached the side. And I was in a submersible with Jim, and he said, "There's the Titanic, Don." And as we rose up, I started recognizing from the porthole arrangements where we were, and I knew who had occupied this cabin here and the next one, and I was amazed that I knew the ship as well as I did.
Using movie sets, props, and costumes, Titanic at the Reagan Library is able to recreate the ship for the visitor. See Rose and Cal's suite, Jack's bunk, the Marconi room where telegraphists Harold Bride and Jack Phillips sent out SOS signals, and even a lifeboat. It's important to note that this is not a traveling exhibition. To see the story of the Titanic told in this unique way, visitors must come to the Reagan Library. Whether you are a fan of genuine history or larger-than-life Hollywood, this is truly a once-in-a-life exhibition that sheds light on the Titanic in a first-ever way no museum has ever attempted before. For more information or to pre-purchase tickets, please visit reaganlibrary.com/Titanic. Tickets also include admission into the Reagan Library Museum and Air Force One Pavilion. Highlights of the exhibit include Alvin, the titanium submersible sphere that brought Dr. Bob Ballard down to the wreckage of Titanic, the first such submersible to do so. Sheet music for Narcissus, which was found on the body of Wallace Hartley, the Titanic band leader who refused to stop playing even as the ship began to sink. A deck chair from the Titanic, one of only 8 known to exist, as well as the only known widow's seat deck chair from the Carpathia. The only known complete set of boarding documents and tickets from the Titanic. John Jacob Astor IV's pocket watch, found on his body days after the Titanic sank, and his wife's life vest she wore to her safety. The claim form from Margaret Brown, otherwise known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, and the Egyptian talisman she carried off the ship. Marion Wright Wolcott's wool coat, the one she wore when she escaped in Lifeboat 9, then later wore to her wedding, then later cut strips of fabric from to make Bible covers for her 3 sons as they served overseas. Original film footage of the Titanic's maiden voyage and the Mackay Bennett's recovery mission, and so much more.
Despite 105 years since this epic catastrophe, it just doesn't go away. Like with me as a teenager, it gets into your blood somehow. It's in the breath and the blood of civilization. It keeps coming back. 100 years from now, and I've always said this, people will still be finding photographs of Titanic between the pages of a book in an attic somewhere. They're turning up, they're still turning up, and they will continue to turn up, I'm sure, for a long, long time to come.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this Inside the Reagan Library video. See you soon.